So I'll give us some examples and then talk about in terms of building that kind of thing. First, examples of why you have to own your own narrative. I was in Liberia a few years ago, and I was at this sort of gathering, a social gathering in Monrovia. And so I was being introduced to folks in Monrovia, and I was excited about being in Liberia because that's one of the places set aside for us to go back to doing slavery and after slavery. And so there was a sister there who said, "Oh God, I don't ever want to go to America. It's terrible, it's horrible." And she was telling me that. And she says, black folks are killing each other, the children are killing their mothers, the children are killing their fathers, and they run around and fight on the streets, and they shoot guns. And I read where a mother killed all her children, and so forth and so on. So I said, well, it's not exactly like that. You know? All right. And what happened was that the narrative of us as an African people in America, she saw that narrative from the films, from the movies she saw. So if you can understand, if you grasp Africa, Caribbean, South America, also we have to include our brothers and sisters in Papua New Guinea, West and South Pacific, they still have a lot of agricultural-based societies, and in the villages, none of this goes on. You know, I mean, they're shocked to see some kid screaming at the grandmother and so forth. And they see Boys in the Hood or something like that. And so she had all this in her head, and you have to kind of change that narrative. So therefore, she says, she thinks that, you know, well, those folks, you know, are crazy. You know, that's when she begins to get a feeling about that. Or she see the rappers up on television with their clothes off and so forth and so on. And she's confused. Another narrative that we have to change. How many people think that Nigeria is terrible? You know, there's thieves, there's hustlers, there's wrestlers, there's rappers. You know, you run into some Nigerian that's a hustler in Los Angeles, and you're convinced that all the Nigerians stole all the money and did everything and so forth and so on. And again, that's a narrative somebody's put out there. Because your biggest criminals are in the United States. You know, America stole the whole continent and committed genocide and had us work for them. That's the real criminal. Now I'll give you this a real story. I don't know how many people used to read the Washington Post, but Leon Dash, who used to write for the Washington Post, was the Washington Post bureau chief in covering all of Africa in Abidjan. And a few years ago, he was down in Lagos covering the OPEC meetings. OPEC is where all the oil people get together and make a decision about what they want to do with the oil prices, which was developed and strengthened by President Gaddafi, which is another narrative. So I'm coming out of the airport, the Murtala Muhammad Airport in Lagos. And Lagos, for those who don't know, Lagos is as big as Southern California. You can imagine 15 million people in Southern California, 99% black, that's Lagos. That's Lagos. And you combine LA, New York, and Africa together, you got Lagos. And so I'm coming out of the airport, Leon is running into the airport. He says, man, Babu, come go with me, man. I just left $4,000 in a taxi. I'm gonna try to see if I can get this back. So I'm sort of shocked, right? So we run back in the airport. What happens is the big corporations like the Washington Post, when they send folks around, they send them with $4,000 or $5,000 to pay their way without using credit cards, because credit cards can be stolen and ripped off and so forth. So a lot of times they spend money to bypass that with carrying $4,000, $5,000, you pay your own way. That's what the $4,000 is for. So we go into Nigeria, into Lagos, Murtala International Airport. You've heard about you got to bribe your way through the airport, you got the people stealing your baggage, and all that whole stuff.